Hello, everybody. Welcome into my latest live broadcast. It's Saturday, the 18th of May, 2024. My name is Carey Holzman, and welcome into our live chat room. Hopefully, a lot of people will catch this live today. We never know on these live videos if they will be available after the show or not. So bear in mind when you do see a live broadcast from me, quite often we turn off the DVR mode, being able to rewind it in order to avoid confusion in the chat room from people who are unknowingly watching at a different point of time. And at the same time, live in the chat room at the current point of time, it leads to some pretty frustrating and comical results. So for that reason, DVR mode is often turned off. If you want to be able to fast forward and rewind this video, then be sure to come back after it's live and it's a regular video. This is live. If you walk away or you show up late, it's just like real life. You missed it. However, because it's recorded, you can always come back later to see what you've missed. But our goal is to have you participate with us live and join us while we're live. And thank you so much for those of you who already have in our chat room. We did fix a few more folks to be blue here that we noticed were being corrected back to blue after the purge. And I want to pick up today where I left off yesterday, because yesterday I started reviewing these mini PCs that our friend Patrick over at Serve the Home, a website and YouTube channel here on YouTube that specializes in enterprise level equipment for companies and corporations that most of you would have no idea exists. In fact, I was looking at some videos the other day of the systems my father worked on. And when I hear you guys talk about liquid coolers and noise, how sensitive you are to a little bit of noise, I would encourage you to go back and look at an IBM System 360 being turned on. I think there's a couple refurbishing videos where people have brought these back to life after 40 years with a 14-inch hard drive that has its own stepper motor. And when it spins up, it sounds like a pool pump. Like this thing just goes, it almost sounds like a Tesla. It's massive, and I can just imagine the power dropping and the lights dimming when you turn this thing on. And if you've ever been in a corporate server room, ever in your life, they are loud. To this day, they're very loud. So because I kind of have a foot in both worlds, some of the things I hear people are worried about, like, is it just a little tiny bit? Can I just barely hear it? You understand from my perspective, you should come into a server room with me sometime or a data center. You're probably going to want to wear ear protection if you're that sensitive. It is 24/7. It never gets quieter. But nonetheless, it's a good reminder for me that there are two separate worlds that don't often overlap. And so if you're involved in both worlds as I am, you get to see this great diversity of needs, budgets, and capabilities, and how one side prioritizes something the other side never even considers. And I think that's fascinating. The reason I pick one side over the other, as I tend to do, is one side makes me money and one side costs me money. So on the business side, there's money to be made and a career to be had. And on the fun side, it's all me spending. Get the latest RGB or get the latest graphics card or get the latest whatever this is. It's a little silly. It's a little emotional. With business, it's let's stay in business and make as much profit as we can. So we don't want to underbuy our computers because we'll lose money and productivity. And we don't want to overbuy our computers because then we're spending money we shouldn't have spent, which eats into our profits, right? And in much the same way, I think regular home consumers would benefit from that reasoning. But there's no emotion involved in the business decisions. Generally speaking, it's whatever makes the most sense in a number of categories. For home users, sometimes I just want that, take my money, it doesn't matter. So neither side is right or wrong. One side makes money, one side spends money. And somewhere in the middle, maybe there's a balance. And that's why I wanted to introduce these business class machines to you, because as you know, I am not a fan of HP computers, but we're talking about HP's consumer side. On HP's business side, that's a different HP. HPE or HP Enterprise is not the same company in the way that it's managed or the products that it builds or the prices. Different expectations for business clients. So since business clients really need performance, they need reliability, they need it to be, within budget, obviously, and they need something that's going to be robust, reliable, right? If I didn't already say that. And if your world never intersects with that world, then you wouldn't even know these were a possibility for you to consider that might appeal to you the same way and for the same reasons they appeal to businesses. And the benefit of this is that many of these are now retired machines that were, or soon will be, because offices will generally lease computers. They don't buy them. Big corporations lease them because they know after 3 to 5 years they have to get replaced and it's cheaper. Let's lease them. Let's get them replaced every 3 to 5 years, however they set that up. And then what happens to the old computers that get replaced that come off of lease? Well, there's a business there too. And that business is to take the computers that were off lease. And this is not a business generally from the manufacturer of the PC. This is another business, sort of a sucker fish that latches onto the bigger fish and says, we'll take those off your hands. We'll give you X amount of dollars for them. And then we'll refurbish them and we'll resell them. So that's a separate business. Sometimes when the machines go off lease, they go off lease back to the finance company, which could be a bank or financial institution, who then has an arrangement with a different business to buy those off-lease computers. Other times, the manufacturer might have an arm of their business that does the leasing, and in much the same way as any other financial arm, they don't want those leased computers. All they wanted was the regular income that those leased computers brought in. Once that lease is over, hopefully that same company replaces all of those machines with a new lease. And then we collect the old computers and we'll sell them typically to a refurbisher. They don't normally refurbish them themselves. It's 3 separate companies. Well, 4. The manufacturer, the corporation they're selling to, the leasing or finance arm, and then the refurbisher. And through all of that, the stuff is being sold for pennies on the dollar because the profit was already made in the lease. Generally speaking, anything they make after the lease is icing on the cake. But there is some cost to collecting the machines and redistributing it or getting them over to a reseller. And that reseller would then buy them from that company. So that company makes a little bit extra. And then the reseller will buy them so cheap that they know some are going to be bad and some can be sold and they have to go through them. It's a lot of labor. And then they'll offer them up on places, whether they have a website or eBay. And if you don't know to look for these on eBay, you would not know they existed. So I always say my videos are not a sales presentation. They're an introduction. And whether or not you find that appealing, a solution, or completely useless information is for you to decide based on why you own a computer. You might own it because you want a big lamp that looks fancy. Or you might want it because you want something reliable and you don't want to mess with it for a long time and you don't want to spend a lot of money. I'm not going to pay a lot of money for this muffler. Squirrel. Anybody get that reference? Welcome in, all my friends in blue. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm going to hop around here as we get set up to go through the last 2 that we didn't do yesterday, the 2 HPs. We did Lenovo and we did Dell. 4 HP got left out. I feel bad. And these actually might be my personal preference of the 6 we've got here. I think the HP are more desirable in general to Lenovo's offerings and no question or doubt to Dell's offering. I don't like these little Dell mini PCs. These are just as bad as the consumer side. It's only HP and Lenovo, I think, that have a separate division for enterprise or corporations, where the same kind of corner cutting and cost cutting isn't as dramatic as what they do for consumers. So you end up with just a better built, better quality product. And yes, it does cost more because it's better. Take a breath. 189 people. 193 people in the chat room. Right on. Good to see everybody. I hope you're having a great Saturday. I am trying to get caught up because I want to get these back over to Patrick. They're on loan. And since we're moving from Studio B to Studio C, I don't want to move them. It just takes me further from Patrick. So this is the poke, 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 get it done, Carey moment. So here we are. The good news is the longer I've had them, the more available they become because they are coming off of lease if they're not already, and many more within the next year or two will be coming off of lease. So you have time to look for or save a search on eBay or other places you might buy to keep an eye out for a good deal. Bill Baggins says, greetings from Sierra Vista. Hey, Bill Baggins, you should not be green, you should be blue. Welcome in, my friend. Thank you for being a member of the channel, and you are blue now. It looks like Mara's already on top of it. Thank you to Mara, of course, for all of her help in the channel administration. It's a lot of work going on behind the scenes, and I haven't really entrusted that to anybody because of how important it is that it's done right. And, you know, to find somebody that can do that and do it well, she's the first one I found. So there you go. Not easy to impress me, just saying. There's Rick Lakes and Dave Price joining us. Welcome in, guys. Brad Revel. Patrick Kennedy. Oh, Patrick Kennedy should be blue. If you would do that for me, Mara. Jerry says, what's the difference between blue and green? Green means that you're a paying monthly member here to support the channel so we can remain sponsor free. If I mention products like Acronis or RoboForm or VIP CDK deals, I only do that to give you guys a discount for products that I use in my real world repair business. I paid full price for them for years, and I was very happy to pay full price. I thought they were a bargain and they had no real competition. So like Acronis, RoboForm, well over a decade and a half minimum on those products for me personally. So I'm a big fan of them. And I said, hey, would you guys consider making an offer for our audience to offer them a discount and help support us? And they said, yeah, absolutely. So I hope you'll support them back. But we don't have the traditional sponsorship where we're told what to say, when to say, what to talk about, review this product, submit it to us for approval before you're allowed to air it. I don't want to do that. I don't want to make commercials for companies. Everything I say is my own opinion. Some things I like, some things I don't. If I know I'm not going to like something, I'm probably not even going to bother with it, right? I just don't want to make videos to put something down. If it gets put down, it's more or less, I will try to find some positives to it, I guess is what I'm trying to say. If I feel like I can't find a positive to it, if I'm doing it live and I didn't know what to expect and the thing is completely disappointing to me, I'll let you decide. But if I know that going into it, I wouldn't make it. And, you know, with a paid corporate sponsorship, I don't have that opportunity. I must do it and I must appear to like it, or I don't get paid. Is that what you want to watch? Because that's what most other tech YouTube channels do that are big. That's how they pay the bills. That's how they pay employees. I'm not saying they're doing anything wrong. It's just not what I want to do. And it's not really what I want to watch. Troll McTrollington contributes $3.50 Canadian. He says, just to keep out the Loch Ness Monster. There's an old reference. About Trividi. Jose Lopez contributes $1. Thank you, Jose. Let me just scroll back up and see these contributions I've missed. Ben Laird with £2 joins us from Scotland. Thank you, Ben, as always. Looks like Brad Revel was the first one in the chat there. There's Gooden, Flipper Flop. Flipper Flop is blue again. Dave Price is blue again. Welcome in, guys. There's Jay Toy and Doman 2000. Zach Bischoff joining us. Thomas Backenstow's in there. Mark Baggett. Kurt Schlegel. Patrick Manny says hello. There's our friend Luke Greeny and Old Man 55. Arnold Albert. Trying to say hello to everybody. Sorry if I skip you. I'm going to try and go quick. R2 Rasanen and Jason Willis say hello. There's Zub0 says hello. Kay Morton and Alan Lindos. Gil Garcia and Martin Postema, who's joining us from the Netherlands, says hello. Ron Barnish saying hello, as well as Ray Gallagher, Andy Kane, and Shane Perkins. Joseph Hawkins in New Zealand says hello. Ole Peterson. Jose Casimiro. There's Carlos Hernandez and Nick Poverman. Matthew Burden and Chevy. Jerry Spann and Ghetto for Night. Somebody must have changed their name. I don't know who that is. Claudia Ventura saying hello. Scott says hello. Mark Gaines from Northern Ireland saying hello. Shane Perkins. Paul Garrett. Our friend Oystein watching us all the way from Norway. Always good to see you, my friend. All of my friends. James Goodrum says hello. There's a long list of people. They say hello to Rick Lakes joining us from Minnesota. Richard Palmentier and Alex Kaufman. Andy Winbridge. Daryl Hover says hello. Derek Kahn says hello. Arcade Jackpot Master says hello. Robert Jones saying hello. Essential Working Too Hard and 3D Everything. Blackjack Yak. Nathalie Kelly, how do we get one of these computers? I would suggest perhaps an eBay search. So for example, if you liked or going to like what I'm about to show you or what I showed you yesterday, you should be able to do a Google search on the make and model of the device. Make a note of, because I bring each one up to the camera and the make and model is written right on top. And then I probably mention it at some point. Search the make and model with Google, hit the shopping tab, see what's available. Or you can just go to your favorite site like eBay for used items, because these will only be sold as used items if they're available. As I mentioned, they will be coming off of lease, if they haven't already, within this year and next year. So what I would do if it were me looking to buy one of these is I would go to eBay with my account. You can create an eBay account if you don't have one for free. I would search the make and model and sort it by price plus shipping, lowest first, and see what's available. If nothing looks good to me, there's a button to save the search and have it auto email me daily or weekly or monthly, whatever frequency I want for any new items listed that match that search. And I would just wait. And then if I forget, the emails will come in from eBay on the frequency that you choose, so that you can be alerted to it right away. And I would prefer buy it now. I don't want to play auction games. So if it's not a buy it now, I'm not doing it. And then I always check the feedback of the seller to make sure that they have a lot of feedback, meaning at least 4 or 5 dozen items, not just 3 or 12 or 0. Because if they have that little bit of feedback, it may be that they're scammers, or it may be that they're terrible sellers. Or it may be they're new and just starting out, but either way, in an auction situation, it's riskier, and so they won't be able to potentially get as much money for the item from interested bidders because of their lack of confident history. Go Live says, Carey, do you still do viewer paid builds, or is that something you no longer do? It sort of depends on a lot of conditions of what the viewer wants and where the viewer lives. So anything involving a private transaction will not be something we discuss publicly. If you personally are interested in having a PC built, or you have to be in the United States, you would have to reach out to my private email address and we would conduct our business privately. If I can help you out, yes, it's possible. However, that is coming to an end. It has not reached an end yet. If I had to guess, I would estimate by the end of 2024, shipping computers just isn't feasible any longer. But I could be wrong, but that's what I think is going to happen. Right now, the last computer I shipped out was last week, or was it 2 weeks ago? So I'm still doing it, yes. However, the email requests asking for custom computers to be built, they used to come in dozens a month, and now I'm lucky to see dozens a year. At that point, it's sort of like, yeah, you know, how much do I want to sit in limbo waiting for somebody to order something that may never happen? At which point it's like, you know what, we got to move on. We have to do something that's more sustainable, that brings a regular income in, that doesn't have so much inconsistency. You know, you can have a bunch of people reach out to you at once and then nobody reaches out to you. In that regard of building a PC, it's feast or famine. It's one or the other. And I can't pay monthly bills that are always due consistently every month without having consistent monthly income. So it's a question that I can only answer by saying currently, yes. In the future, you know, after the end of the year, probably not, but we'll have to wait and see. But if you are interested, nothing ventured, nothing gained, right? So feel free to email with what it is you're looking for, what your budget is, and where you live. But I can tell you, if you live outside of the United States, that's going to be an automatic no. But thank you for the question. Before I get started, other questions on any tech-related subject? Bull Terrier Max says hello from the Netherlands, Amsterdam. Look at that. We got a couple people from Amsterdam in there today. Wayne Bennett says hello from Nova Scotia, Canada. John Williams saying hello. Richard Palmentier saying hello. Peter Meyer also joins us from Amsterdam. Look at that. That's 3 now. We're going to move the studio to Amsterdam. I wish. Bajin Guy says, how about having the person that wants the computer pay part of the shipping or most of the shipping? Well, again, unless you're that person that's transacting with me, what people do and how I run my business is a private transaction. So if you're interested and you're making that offer, let's talk. But what I do and how I run the business is not for public knowledge. For that very reason, I don't need other people telling me how to drive when I'm driving. So, but when it's you we're talking about, when you want to order, or you're curious about what would it cost me, you know, could I even afford to order it? Again, depending on where you live and what it is you want to buy, that's something you and I need to talk about. That doesn't involve anybody else. So feel free to reach out if you're interested. If we can work it out, we will work it out. And if we can't, no harm in asking. Troll McTrollington says, if you move the studio to Amsterdam, the rental fees The gas and car insurance will kill the budget. Probably. Probably. UGG says, I'm interested in a build from you. I thought you were burned out building, so it's nice to know you're not. I'll reach out to your email. Absolutely. No, this is all I have ever done. Understand that I've been building, repairing, and upgrading computers professionally since 1991. And prior to that, it was a hobby with the Atari 400 or the TRS-80 Model 1. Back in the early 80s when I was not making money, I was spending money on it. This is the only world I know. So if I said I don't want to do that anymore, what else can I do? On the other hand, if people aren't ordering, then that decision isn't one for me to make, is it? That decision's being made for me. If I'm fixing VCRs and nobody needs a VCR repaired anymore, and I've been doing it for 30 years, I better pivot to something else or go out of business. So it's not necessarily on my shoulders. I'm certainly willing to do it if the terms are good for me and the buyer, that everybody's on the same page, for sure. That's just good business. That's all I've done since since I started being self-employed. So that wouldn't have been 91, that would have been 96, 97, somewhere in there. Darloff just became a member of the channel, a supporter as they call it. You'll see anybody that's a supporter has a gold badge next to their name. If they have a number, that means that's the minimum number of months that they've been a member here. The numbers don't go up with every month. If there's no number in it, that means they're less than 1 month, less than one. And then as the number gets to 6, it'll stay at 6 until you hit 12, and it'll stay at 12 until you hit 24. And that's YouTube's thing. I got nothing in it. So if you're curious what those are the supporters who make these videos possible through their contributions and their support. We can't thank them enough for it. Okay, so when it comes to these HP minis, I suppose we should fire one up. Now, one of the reasons why I brought these over, because you guys have seen plenty of the HP 1-liter mini PCs before, but not like these. These are both AMD Ryzen processors, which I'd never seen before. Almost universally, if you just knew about mini PCs based on what I've shown you, you wouldn't even know, much like I didn't, that AMD versions of these existed. Color me surprised, because here we are. I thought, let's take a look at them, because again, if it's more up your alley, if that's more appealing to you, then you'll know the make and model to search for if you want to find one of these off lease. Thompson Technologies wants to know if I had a techie nickname. One guy, a Native American guy whose brother I worked with, would come in and ask to see his brother. And he spoke with a very strong Native American accent. I don't think he knew my name. He just knew I was the computer guy. And he was a big Native American guy, very intimidating, sweetest guy you'd ever meet. And to get my attention, he would say, Wizard, it's Phil here. I can't do the accent. But it tickled me. He called me Wizard. So I guess if I was Native American, that would have been my tribal name, maybe? I don't know. I'll take it. I'll take it. I've been called a lot worse. So everything on the counter is left exactly as we shut it down yesterday, because I had other things and errands to run. So this is a continuation of yesterday's video. And these videos stand on their own. It's not as though you have to go back and catch up. But if you want more information on the other 4 units on the desk, that's yesterday. Now, on this unit here, I've got a note to myself that that it didn't have an NVMe drive in it when I borrowed it from Patrick. So I put my own in there, installed the operating system and the drivers so I could demo this to you. And then the note is there for me. So I remember to take the drive out and give it back to Patrick in the same way that he loaned it to me. No better, no worse. It's what I expect people to do when I loan them things. So I would do no less. Now, let me go back over to my OBS view right here. There it is. Okay. This unit, the HP units look very similar in the front. We do have USB Type-C, Type-A, audio port, power. Nothing on the sides as we come around the back. We have got a higher speed, I don't know what that is, but there must be, maybe this is a 1 gig and this is a 2.5. We'll have to look in the BIOS or the device manager and see what that is. But this is one of those add-in parts that I talked about yesterday where you can remove this and change it with different things. Depending on the make and model and the manufacturer, there may be FireWire, USB, 10 gig SFP, HDMI, all kinds of things. You just, depending on the manufacturer and the model, they are proprietary. There's no third-party manufacturer. And that's what this cutout is here. It's for a card that can slide in, although I've never seen anything actually put in there. You'd have to go to the manufacturer's website and look up this model in order to determine what those options are for this specific model. They vary. These options vary. Just because they make a FireWire for this model, don't assume they make a FireWire for any other model. They might not, or with any other module. We've got 1, 2, 3 USB ports. Oh, there's our fourth one over there. Those are super speed. You see the SS, so those are going to be USB 3. And then we have a DisplayPort. Generally speaking, business computers are going to use DisplayPort. It's no big deal to convert it to HDMI if you want to plug it into your TV or you have an older monitor that doesn't support DisplayPort. It's just a $10 adapter cable. Now here, I wrote down the specifications. It's an AMD Ryzen Pro 5750G with 8 gigs of DDR4. As I mentioned, the way Patrick gave it to me, it had no drive in it, but I put I think a 500 gig Beijing and NVMe in there, if I recall. Windows 11 Pro. Which I made a note, will auto-activate when installed. I made that note because when I take my NVMe out and give it back to Patrick, it's kind of a note for him if he doesn't already know that you just install Windows 11 Pro without a product key. And the first time you go to Windows Update, the pre-shared key is built into the BIOS on these system integrator builds. And that's really convenient. You never have to enter the product key. It'll be reassigned automatically from Microsoft. No Microsoft account is required for that to function, and we've demonstrated it here on this channel before. Let's go ahead and plug it in. I think I'm in trouble because I don't know where my power adapters for HP went. Uh-oh. It's just now occurred to me. Bear with me for just a second. That's embarrassing. I thought I was prepared until 10 seconds ago. I think, yikes. Uh-oh. If I have a spare 90-watt adapter, let's see. I don't know on the Ryzens if the power delivery is different. Let's take a look at what it wants. It'll tell us on the bottom. This is an HP EliteDesk 805 G8, which was probably written right up on the top of the index card when I had that close-up earlier. And its power requirements are, geez, how many more words could they fit on the back of this? I wonder what the pitch size of that font is. Input 19.5 volts, which is standard. That's normal. most mini PCs and desktops, most mini PCs and laptops, 19 volts is normal. Common. This did come with Windows 11 Pro on it, so it's not that old. Still looking for the wattage. Don't see it anywhere. 19.5 volts, 4.62 amps equals how many watts? Well, what is this? This is probably 65 watts or 90 watts. This is a 65 watt. You can kind of tell from the size of it. If I have a 90 watt, I'd rather use it because I got a feeling 65 isn't going to be enough. Let me see. What is this one? 65. Rats. What is this one? 65. Well, here's the thing. Remember I told you if you plug the wrong power adapter into something, you can toast it. But if the power adapter is too weak, as long as the polarity is right, in other words, positive and negative are correct, it simply won't deliver enough power. It's like putting weak batteries in a flashlight. It just won't turn on. So I don't think there's any harm in trying. Just got a feeling this isn't going to be enough power. But if it doesn't turn on, I'm just going to warn you right now, it'll be because we're not delivering enough power. I had a bunch of 90 watt power supplies for HPs, and I recently moved them to Studio C thinking, I don't need these right now. I'll get to these later, without thinking I was going to borrow one of their power supplies specifically for this, which is why I did not take any from Patrick, because that would be something else I'd have to remember to return to him. And how would I know his from mine? So anyway, I was trying to keep things simpler, and this is a consequence of that. But that's all right. Maybe we'll get lucky. We've got our $10 display port to HDMI adapter. Display port to HDMI. Right there. Display port to HDMI. And then I need a keyboard and a mouse and power. With the dongle. Did I leave it in from yesterday? Yeah, it's right here, where I left it yesterday. What a shocker. Who would have guessed that? Oh, I have given it power. Okay. Scatterbrained. Oh, wait, there's another one back here. I think that's another 65 watt. It's all live, unscripted, can you tell? Of course, this is all designed to look like it's unscripted. Was all of that in the script? We'll see who's a conspiracy theorist, who can tell reality from imagination. All right, let's just try this and see what happens. HDMI input will turn on, and I will put my camera, put myself in the corner. All right. Hope for the best, expect the worst. Here we go. Feel a power button somewhere. Is it over here? Over here? Where is it? I can't see it. Oh. Okay. Good. Can everybody hear that? Okay, that is telling us it's not having enough power. It's saying, you're giving me some, I need more. So you would not want to try and fix this. You wouldn't, in other words, open it up and start changing RAM and thermal compound and fans and connectors. You're just wasting your time because that's not what it's complaining about. You've got the wrong power adapter plugged in. So who knew there was a lesson there? Well, shoot, I really want to show you. I'd really like to show you these. I have a few more power adapters here that might be 90 watts. Let's see. Now that one looks like it's 65 to me. Wattage on this one is 65. Of course it is. When you get to these higher end machines, obviously they need more power. I mean, that's just common sense. And I did not plan this well. This one I'm pretty sure is also 65. Darn it. Well, I did that to myself, ladies and gentlemen. Just did that to myself. Don't even think about using the Dell power supply. Don't even think about it. The Dell power supply is 90 watts. But here's the thing, even if this plug fits, which it probably won't because they're competitors, yeah, it ain't going in there, thank goodness. Because even if it did, you would likely burn out that unit. Even if it meets the power requirements and it fits in the plug, they don't play nice with each other. And if you could swap power supplies or any parts that they make themselves with their competitors that they make themselves, you got a lawsuit on your hands. So they almost have to make it proprietary. I just want to look around a few. Wait, what's this down here? No, that's not one. Well, golly gosh darn, we'll have to revisit this or just simply move on, I guess, because, yeah, that's not going to work. I think I am out of options. I'm just trying to quickly remember if I have another one somewhere, but I'm probably really thorough when I moved them over to the new studio that I took everything. I'm not one to leave things behind. So I would be happy and disappointed in myself if I found one here, because that would mean I did not do it properly if I left anything behind. That's all right. It's all fixable. Gosh darn. Yeah, I can't imagine I wasn't thorough. That's the downside of being thorough right there. You've witnessed it. There you go. Okay, so you can get an idea of what this is going to run like, because as far as booting into Windows 11, it's going to boot in just as quick as anything else. Your difference is primarily in the ports you have available. I can't remember what that other network card is right up there. It's probably going to be a 2.5 gig. That would be my guess. It's also possible it has two 1 gigabit network cards for some business use case where it might function as a firewall or some stuff. Something like that. I don't know. Because, again, they're designed for business, so they may be spec'd out a little differently for that purpose. Now, if we take a look at the other one, we'll just keep moving, man. Got to keep the show rolling. This one here is an HP EliteDesk 805G6. It says so right up there. This one's a little better, right? This is a Ryzen 7 Pro. This one has 64 gigs of RAM and an HP EX900 Plus 1 terabyte NVMe drive that's running what looks like, that looks like Gen 3 to me, but it could be Gen 4. We've got a Western Digital 256 NVMe, so this has 2 NVMe drives in it. Windows 11 Pro, and it's activated. Same front as the other one, and we come around the back, slightly different because instead of having a network port here, they put an add-on USB port here, USB Type-C. These are one of the options that was clearly available from this manufacturer for this model that this customer selected. We still have this port here, which is not used. And then we have our Ethernet, USB, 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 DisplayPort, same as the other one. Get the gist of this, right? This is how companies can configure these to meet their specific needs. You'll also notice that there's no Wi-Fi antenna port on the back of this one, but there is a Wi-Fi antenna port on the back of this one, right? So does that mean this one doesn't have Wi-Fi? Well, without turning it on, I don't know. This one's spec'd out really well. You can just imagine what sort of performance you would get out of a Ryzen 7 with 64 gigs of RAM in a little tiny box that is what we call a 1 liter or 1L mini PC. And these are built like a tank. Like a tank. They are solid. They don't build them like the cheap consumer stuff. As a result, they do cost a bit more. They're very easy to work on. They very rarely need to be worked on. And, you know, if you're not a gamer, they're good for everything else. Matthew says, I see a take 2 video tomorrow. Quite possibly, but what sucks about that is having to go back to the other studio, get the power adapter, bring it back here, make the video, take the power adapter back, then take these machines and take them over to Patrick. That's a whole lot of errand running. So there may not be a follow-up. I haven't decided unless there's another reason I need to make those trips. I suppose if I'm bringing something else over out of Studio B into the new studio, I'm there anyway. I can pick the adapter up and bring it back because I'm coming back anyway. And I would prefer to bring these back to Patrick when I'm done with them, and I won't feel like I'm done with them until I do it. So it's not like it all has to be done on the same day. One way or another, I'm going back to Patrick. So I think you might be right. I just don't know that you're right about tomorrow. But yeah, it's a shame to take it this far and not be able to fire it up. David wants to know if we can take another look at that Dell yesterday that didn't boot up. Yeah, well, since I can't go through these machines, I suppose that's something we can do. I think that Dell is the one at the bottom, isn't it? It was the cheaper i3, if I recall. So that would be this one right here. And let's go ahead and take the cover off of it. It's a good idea. Let's do that. Take us along and video the trip. Yeah, I'm sure the people that want to attack me would love to know where Patrick's studio is and where my studio is. They can look at the road signs and look at the restaurants, and they can easily figure out where the heck I am, and then they can do more harassment to me. So unfortunately, that's the world we live in, and so we have to keep these locations private in order to avoid the harassment from lonely, lonely men, lonely, sad men. That's all it is. No women do this. It's just lonely men who they're not loved, or they don't feel it. They don't feel loved. And so all they do is lash out at people that are complete random strangers. This is part of what comes with this job. If you want to be a YouTube personality, or even on TikTok, if I were you, make sure you have anything online, do a search for yourself. And if you can find your address, your phone number, have it removed before you start getting popular on YouTube, or it'll be too late. And then the only way to fix that is to move, which is what we did. Did you ever think about that? Did you ever think about the side effects of the job? It's not a side effect you would have at almost any other job. Anyway, that's why we do that. You guys talk about, oh, my phone's spying on me. You don't know. You have no idea. These losers that are just lonely males just have nothing to do but harass you. And they come up with some pretty lame ways to do it. You're like, really? That's the best you could come up with? It just makes it even more sad. But at the same time, it's like a mosquito. It's not that I fear, oh no, the mosquito's going to bite me. It's an annoyance. It's really just annoying. So you just want to get the swatter out, swat the mosquito, and say, okay, annoyance is over. I'm not doing it to save my life or out of fear. I'm really annoyed. All right. We're going to figure out why this thing keeps going to sleep, aren't we? Flashing amber light on this Dell. So before we start, what I'm curious about is what would the internet say? I think too many people go to the internet expecting to find an answer. I don't, but what I'm expecting to find is a clue. I don't want the internet to do my thinking for me. That makes me weaker and dumber. The more I rely on it, the dumber and weaker I get. If you exercise on my behalf, I'm not getting in better shape. You are. So my preference is, I hope to find a clue. If I find the answer and I don't get the opportunity to figure it out myself, that upsets me. Luckily for me in my career, most answers I have found online, only through my experience can I tell which answers are possible, which answers are not possible. And that can help me weed through. And other times there are problems that are so unique, nobody's got the answer and I'm just on my own, or I'm not searching it correctly. A lot of times people don't get, if you're not doing a good search, you're not going to get a good response. So if you're not finding the answer to your problem, you're probably not searching it correctly. Or at least a hint. So if I do a search for, I say this was an Optiplex 3070, I think. So we'll type in Dell Optiplex 3070 flashing amber and just leave it at that. And the first link that comes up is a service manual from Dell. Amber LED state off, white LED state off. That means the power's off or it's hibernating. Wow, thanks for that. Amber LED blinking, white LED off. Boot failure. The computer is receiving electrical power and power supplied by the power supply is normal. A device might be malfunctioning or incorrectly installed. Refer to the table below for amber blinking pattern, diagnostic suggestion, and possible failures. Okay, fair enough. It does have a pattern to the blink. And then it's listing a bunch of combinations of white and amber blinking, and we don't have any white, it's just amber only. And in all of these, it says white state 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6. It's 0, and that doesn't seem to be an option. So again, the internet is not leading us where like if you're looking for the answer, it's given us a clue. This is what I was talking about. Is that a big enough clue for me to resolve this? And do I even believe that that's even taking me down the right road anyway? I want to just search one more. Here's somebody who wrote about the problem in Dell support. Somebody says, power it down and remove the case. We've done all that. Remove the small battery. We've done that. Power it on. Oh, with the battery out. Wait for a few minutes while pressing the power button. Did that. PC boots up. Slid the battery back in the case. A new battery is a cheap thing to try, but typically a blinking amber power button is a sign there's an issue with the power supply. Oh, well, I mean, that's possible too, because I only have this one power supply that we're using with both units. I would assume the i3 requires less power, so as long as we've got more power than we need, this should be fine. But do I have a different power supply I could try? I think this is the power supply that came with the i3. I think when I borrowed the other Dell, the i3 is mine, and the other Dell is from Patrick, and I didn't take any power bricks from Patrick except for the Lenovo because I don't have any of those. So another Dell. I might have another Dell in the stack of mini PCs and power supplies that go with them to the other studio. So I think we're right back to square one. We do know that it booted before, though, and that's the difference. So if it was not delivering enough power, that does not explain why it booted before. So we go back in circles around. Look, there is, as far as I can tell in my lifetime, no replacement for hard work and experience. Yes, other people's experience that's documented is very helpful. However, many of these experiences that we have are unique. They vary a little bit. And you have to have the experience, or at least the mindset, to be able to take the information, which may be 80% of your solution, but it's not 100%. You've got to at least be able to come up with that 20% on your own. If you're expecting 100% from the internet and therefore think you don't need any experience, you can do what I do because all you have to do is use Google, and you think that's all I do, or if you hear a tech say all I do is use Google, they're not a tech, unless they're joking. Any real tech would say that with a wink and a nod. That's what I do. Customers think I solve it, but what I really do is Google it. Yes, we do use Google, but we're not expecting to find a 100% solution. If it happens, it happens, but that's not normal, at least not in my world. What's normal for me is I find something similar. That's the little piece of the puzzle I was missing, and from there I can solve the rest of the puzzle. And because no two puzzles are usually alike, the information doesn't help. I don't retain that, but I do retain the experience. And so the next time I encounter a different puzzle and I'm looking for that piece to help me solve it, it's the same process mentally. And I think there's a big disconnect when people just go, well, the internet will show you how to do it. The internet won't do it for you, and the internet won't help you understand it. So at the end of the day, it's you. And whether you succeed or not is on you, not on the internet. So we use that as a boost, but we don't use that as a replacement. At least I don't. Okay, so if it booted before, why isn't it booting now? Here's another tech tip from your Uncle Carey. When you're dealing with an intermittent problem, and I don't care if it's your health or your car or your computer, those are the most difficult, time-consuming, frustrating problems you'll ever solve. When something flat out doesn't work, that might upset you, but that's easier to fix. Right? If the machine simply is dead, let's just say, and nothing I do, the light will come on, I could have that fixed probably in under 10 minutes. But because sometimes it turns on and sometimes it doesn't, and then the way it turns on is it boots or it just kind of acts like it's asleep, and then it doesn't do it every time, how do you really know you've ever fixed it? You just have to wait till it starts booting every time, and eventually you give it back to the customer, and the customer is your best test bench. Let them use it. Otherwise, you'll be powering it on and off indefinitely until you're satisfied it's fixed, and your customer might have, grown a beard this long between that and the time they get it back. So you do have to work quickly and reasonably. And if it's something that you're not confident about, find your customer another solution while you can continue to work for a longer period of time. That's between you and the customer to work out. But I guess because it's so inconsistent, let's just make sure nothing's changed since yesterday, because honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if it just turned right on. And I wouldn't be surprised if it went back to the blinking amber light. It could go either way. There's no consistency here. When it comes to the power brick, the bottom of the case says it wants a 19.5 volt, 3.34 amp power supply. And the power supply says this is a 90 watt power supply. It's 19.5 volts and 4.5 amps. So it's providing the voltage we need. And think of amperage like horsepower. That's the maximum amperage it can deliver. It's only going to deliver what the PC needs. So if the PC needs 3.5 amps and we're giving it 4.5, that just means it's like you have an 800 watt power supply in your desktop computer and you're only using 400 watts of it. That's all headroom, that's extra. So this has extra. Well, it shouldn't be a power delivery issue unless something's physically wrong with this brick, except that this brick worked fine every single time on the other unit. So that makes me think, as I'm doing the math and the equation, the brick is likely not the problem. Something in here is the problem, but where? First thing we did was replace the CMOS battery yesterday. The old battery was a 0.5 volt low. That's significant. Let's swap it out. It made no difference. I'm sort of back to square one on this. Nothing I've done has made any impact. So I have to think of doing something that I hadn't thought of doing before. Or searching for something I hadn't thought to search before. Because my search results, as I previously mentioned, will only be as good as my search. The more specific I can be, the better the solutions are that are going to be offered. And the more vague I am, the more vague and obscure the answers may be as to how helpful they'll be for me. We call that Google Fu, like Kung Fu, but with Google. How good is your Google Fu? So I think I'll try what the Redditor said. No, that wasn't a Redditor. That was a Dell forum post where they said they took out the battery. I mean, we got nothing to lose here. It's not going to hurt anything. That's the new battery we put in yesterday. I don't need Ethernet. Let's just leave. We're only going to plug in things we need. No flash drives, no printers, no network, just power, keyboard, and video, nothing else. Now, it could also be the HDMI port, right? So that's the other thing to consider. It may be this model requires us to use the display port, and this is the problem right here, is that it's possible either something is wrong with the display port and it's not detecting a monitor, or that display port has to be used first and HDMI can only be used second. I have seen some machines built that way. If that's the case, at least we have an explanation. As to why, it may vary based on the model. Because any of these you should be able to plug into any of the video ports in any order. But I have seen some where that's not the case. And I've also seen some that had bad ports. So we have two things to check here that I just thought of. The diagnostic procedure is a little like, it's a little MacGyver. I think it's fun. To me, this is way better than a video game because I'm not paying to play it. And when I win it, I get to play another game. I don't have to play the same game again. That's way more interesting, or keeping my interest. Like reading the same book twice. I don't know. Some people do that. It's definitely not as enjoyable for me the second time around when I know what's coming. But to each their own. Let's try it, see what happens. Peter with a €1 contribution in Super Chat. Thank you, Peter. Sorry, I've been so It's hard to focus on this, the level of concentration it takes, and do this and the level of concentration it takes, and look at the chat room and the level of concentration it takes. It's, as my friend said, still spinning plates, Carey. You know, the old plate spinners? They'd run around trying to keep the plates from falling, from keeping the spin rate up. That's kind of what I do. My friend was pretty dead on with that. Okay, I have an amber light on right now. It just shut off. Now it's, okay, it's a white light that's on right now. Take it back. White light. Remember, we've got no battery in it right now. Some machines will not boot without a battery or a dead battery. Some machines will. And now the light's gone to amber briefly and back to white again. It's booting. Isn't that interesting? Pretty darn interesting to me. I wonder if that's telling us that we don't have a BIOS battery. Let's see. Time of day not set. Well, the time of day is set by the, or rather it's kept by the battery when the machine's off. So that's exactly what's supposed to happen. That is perfect. That is normal operational procedure right there. Okay, I'm gonna have to make this bigger so I can see it. So bear with me here for a second. Date and time not set. Let's just continue. Oh, let's go to BIOS setup. Let's do that. And let's load the BIOS. No, it doesn't matter. Without a battery, it's not going to save it. Let's do it anyway. Heck with it. System information, boot sequence, advanced boot options. UI5, parity, always accept internal. So going to be some different options. I guess I haven't really talked about this. IT departments need controls in the BIOS that home users don't need. So you're going to find some options in here that you would never see before as a home user unless you worked in the industry. And that's for the IT department, like support assist, active state power management. Let's just disable it. Apply. And you can save what you want to be the BIOS defaults. You see how it asked me if I wanted to save that as a user preference? That means when I want to reset the BIOS, I can reset it back to my preferences as the company, right? We can control that. Some pretty cool features in here. This does claim to have a wire. Oh yeah, this has the antenna. This isn't the one. You can disable the wireless if you feel like that's not good for your corporation to have Bluetooth or wireless. Virtualization, don't care. Post behavior, what do we have? Post behavior. The power on self-test or post. Adapter warnings. Now this should tell you if your adapter is too low. For example, the message will alert you if you attempt to use a power adapter that has too little capacity, but it has enough power that it can display the message, right? But not enough that it can boot. Sort of like a car battery that's dying. You can turn on the radio, but the engine won't turn over. But this is smart enough to tell you why. This could be our problem right here. We definitely don't want it on thorough. Let's put it on minimal. Again, in a corporate environment where you have hundreds or thousands of these, you can imagine how beneficial these settings can be. And given that they're better built than consumer PCs, You have more control over them, even though you shouldn't need most of these. Most of these options should be of no benefit to a home user, but you could save money by buying these off lease, and it's going to be hard to tell these from new machines unless you're a really power user. And if you're a power user, why are you looking at these? That doesn't make any sense to me. I like driving fast cars, so show me the cheapest economy car you have. That's the opposite of what you just said you needed. Okay, I think that's it. We did hit apply. Let's go to exit and let's see if it boots. Is that a legacy BIOS? No, that is a UEFI BIOS. It just does not have a graphical user interface. It's a business machine. Business machines generally don't have pretty pictures for the IT department to click on. They want to get down to business. So just because your interface is text versus GUI is no indication of its legacy or UEFI, just so you know. IT departments don't want to mess with that childish click on the picture stuff. Just give me the information quickly on one screen. Let me get to what I need to get to. I got work to do. Here's a picture of your fans. This is where you control your fans. How do you think somebody in IT feels about being treated or talked to that way? That's a consumer thing. That's for the home users, because the home users don't know, generally speaking. Or they've got to have pictures. See the picture? Click it. I'm attacked. Okay. You have to remember, I have kept the battery out, right? So I don't know what's going to happen here. It looks like it reassigned the date and time, but will I lose my BIOS settings? I don't know. Let's go ahead and shut it down. I think as long as I leave it plugged in, even though it's off, if I leave it plugged in, there's still a little power being delivered to this. Any modern electronic device, your TV included. Just taking a little bit of power. It's keeping everything. It's remembering your Wi-Fi login or whatever for your TV or your settings, your saved channels, etc. So in theory, I wouldn't lose the BIOS settings until I unplug it from power, and it literally has zero power. That's when the battery would kick in. So in theory, we should be okay now, and the BIOS settings should still be unaltered. Oops. Next. I don't know that I've solved it. I really don't know. How do you know when it doesn't do it all the time? Do you just leave it unplugged for a few days and then plug it in? Because that's how that happened. It was left unplugged for a couple of months. Well, yeah, say a couple months. And when it was put away, it worked fine. But when we took it out 2 months later, it didn't work anymore. So I guess if you don't unplug it anymore, it'll probably be okay. I tell you guys, keep your computers plugged in and turned on. You won't deal with these problems ever. I mean, unless something like a power supply goes out, where you have a big power surge and it kills something. Generally speaking, your computer is going to be far more reliable if you leave it on and just restart it at least once a week or as necessary. Now, if we take this and shut it down completely, just for the sake of argument, shut down. And as that powers off, we'll go back full screen here to camera 1 so you can see what I'm about to do on the whole screen. Instead of in this little corner, there we go. Now I'm going to go ahead and unplug everything. Make sure the fan stops spinning here. Okay, the fan is stopped. So there's our HDMI. There's our power. I guess I don't need the display adapter. Back where we'll find it the next time we need it. Let's put the cover back on. Take that out or the cover won't go back on. Let's let it sit just a minute and we'll plug it all back in and see if it works. And even if it does, who's to say it'll do that again? It's an intermittent problem. How can you ever really be sure? This is about empty. I'm going to grab a Gatorade while we wait. And if you have any technical questions for me in the chat, this is a good time to ask as we're sort of biding our time and waiting for, I don't know, a couple of minutes, and then we'll fire it back up and see what it does. Are we going to go back to an amber blinking light? Is it going to boot? Are you willing to place a bet on it? And if so, how much? Not to me, just in general. Would you bet on this? And would you bet for the amber light, or would you bet for a proper boot? Let's see how many of you are right and how many of you are wrong. Care to be tested? Okay. Still waiting from responses from you guys. Come on now. Come on. Don't be shy. You know how the whack-a-mole game works, right? You poke your head up, and then the hammer comes down. But if you poke your head up, will the hammer come down on your head, or are you too quick for that? Let's play. I'm the one holding the hammer. Gotta find better analogies than that. Richard Palmentier has a question. I leave my Acronis backup drive connected to the computer, and I have it set for incremental backups. Is this okay to do? That is one of the worst possible things you could do. The reason why people plug in a backup, the reason why you have a backup is in case something goes wrong and you lose your data. And when I say something goes wrong, I'm referring to 1,000 different possibilities that include fire and theft. They also include viruses and ransomware. They include drive failure and power outages. They include so many variables that I could sit here and talk for the next 20 minutes and say, could be this, could be this, could be this, could be this. How am I going to die? There's 1,000 different ways. So what we're trying to do when we make a backup is we're trying to prepare for the worst and hope the worst doesn't happen. So if you want to leave a backup drive connected all the time, then you should have a second backup drive not connected, and preferably not in the same building, because if there's weather events, hurricanes, tornadoes. It was just on the news, all of this stuff, hurricanes and tornadoes recently. The wildfires are always in the news. Then we have theft. We have so many new viruses introduced every day, and ransomware. And clicked on an email attachment, I knew better, but it's too late. By the time you did it, it's already done. By the time you've realized, it's already done. And anything attached to the computer or the network is now compromised and should be considered so until it's been inspected, and maybe completely unrecoverable if it's encryption and you don't have the key and everything gets encrypted. What good is your backup? The reason you need the backup is because you got the virus, but the virus went on to the backup because it's connected. Following me? But if you leave one plugged in, a backup drive plugged in, and you keep one on a shelf, and there's a fire, tornado, a theft, then that's gone too. So then you don't have a backup. If you keep it plugged in and you keep it on the shelf, and you get a virus, when was the last time you updated the one on the shelf? How much data will you lose? Yes, you've got some of it, but do you have all of it? And do you care? So then you need to rotate those drives. Take the one you leave plugged in and say, okay, if anything happened to this drive with the amount of stuff that's backed up since the last time I backed up the one on the shelf, I need to rotate them. You need to be aware of this. Or you need to just set yourself on a schedule to go, I don't want to lose more than 7 days of stuff that I've changed, or 14 days, or 30 days, or 3 months, or a year. You decide how much loss you're willing to take in exchange for not having to do the work. So in my business clients, we have 3 different backups. We have the main storage of the NAS. This is pretty standard procedure for me if you're curious how I do it. We have a local backup, which is typically a little USB SSD plugged into one of the office administrator's computers, somebody in charge. Okay? Not just any employee. It's got to be the person, not necessarily the boss, although sometimes. The bosses generally don't know anything about this stuff. They won't know what that thing is. We just keep it out of sight and out of mind to the boss. It's usually the office administrator that's running everything. So usually it's the office administrator PC that gets the backup drive plugged in. And then depending on the client's needs and how much they're paying me, I go on site and I take that backup drive and I trade it with the one I have here. That's theirs. I don't own it. And all I do is I unplug the USB cable from theirs and I plug in the other one back into the USB and I say update right now. And it might take hours. So once it starts, I'm good to go. I can finish it remotely. I take that backup drive back home. Now, if an employee, rather than give you an examples, if anything happens, we're covered. We're covered locally for a fast recovery. That's why we have the local backup attached. And I can make sure it's getting updated and I can audit it. It's automated, but at the same time, I still make sure once a week that it has run and it's current. If there's any problems, I want to know before the customer knows. I want to know. If there's a natural disaster that affects me and my customer 30 miles away, so both backups are destroyed, I think we got bigger issues to worry about than our backups. At that point, we're surviving as human beings, and all of this is luxury. None of this matters anymore if it's that bad. So I feel very, very confident in the system I have set up. It's my system. Nobody else has to agree with it. Nobody else takes responsibility for it. Nobody else gets paid to maintain it. Therefore, I create it, I maintain it, and I'm responsible for it, and I profit from it. And when things happen, I'm tested. And believe me, things have happened. Nothing so far for any of my clients regarding theft, but we certainly have had accidentally deleted files and NASs that went corrupt and all the data got lost. You want to talk about a heart attack moment, you know. In the case of the NAS going down, we had to buy a new NAS. And when we bought the new NAS, we might as well buy new drives. Once we get the new NAS and the new drives arriving, that's usually 2-3 days if we order it from Amazon, I need to go and set it up and put it on the network. And further, I need to remove the old NAS from the network and any map drive letters on any of the computers in the office that pointed to the old one. The new one goes in, the new one gets configured, and the new RAID array has to be made. And the new RAID array could take 24 hours to build. On most new NASs, though, I can start the recovery process. And the recovery process is me plugging in the latest backup drive, which may be already plugged in, right, if that's the one that was left there. And I copy everything off of it as a file synchronization right back onto the NAS where it was. And if the customer has 2 million files, this is going to be a full weekend, preferably a weekend. If it's happening during the week, I have to accommodate that. In other words, I have to cancel everything I can to get over there and do that. Now, the good news is I don't have to sit and wait. Once I start that restoration process, as long as I have remote access, and even though they're 30 miles away, I can check on its progress periodically. If the drive should fail or become disconnected for any reason, the backup stops or the recovery stops. And so I can't assume the recovery is just going to go on for 24 hours without a hitch. It could run into all different kinds. The file path is too long and everything stops. Now, there are things like there's a free program called Teracopy, Teracoy, that's been around for years and years and years. That replaces the copy of the copy command in Windows. It's kind of a pain in the butt because it offers you all these options, but what it will do is it will set the errors aside and keep going. So at least that way you don't have to, become aware that it's possible that I start a 24-hour recovery, get in the car and leave, and as soon as I'm in the car, it fails. So I check on it in 2 hours and realize it only got this far. And I was assuming, I'll just check it, make sure it's still, oh no, if you'd have stayed 30 seconds longer, you could have, avoided this. So now the recovery process is going to be 26 hours instead of 24, or, whatever happens like that until it's done. But at least the main thing is that when it's done, the customer doesn't say, where'd all my work go? You don't have to recreate any of that work. We've got the copies. You're back to where you were before the crash. You might have lost whatever you were working on in that moment, but we've got everything else. Can you imagine losing 2 million files? Can you just imagine that? How much would you pay to get those back? Okay. I think we waited long enough. So as long as you have more than one backup, you can leave one plugged in. Just rotate them regularly, however regularly you're comfortable with. That's my recommendation. Ben Laird said, I switch off PCs at night. The RGB is too bright for sleeping. It's actually a common customer complaint that somebody spent extra for lights they didn't need and then annoy them at night because they're too bright to sleep. Usually RGB software allows you to even schedule that so they go off on a schedule, or you can turn it off in the BIOS, but that may be more effort than just shutting it off. You could also just you can unplug the RGB. You know what I'm saying? Like you don't have to have that. And then you can leave the PC on. So is your PC reliability more important than your pretty lights? I think I know the answer to this. Please don't answer it because I'm not going to like your answer. All right. Should know me well enough by now. So we never know when that's going to happen. Oh, it looks like Justin Miller is green in the chat. I don't know if Mara took care of that. Mara, please make Justin blue if you've not. I'm still catching up, guys. Okay, who thinks this is going to turn on just normally? And who thinks we're going to get an amber blinking LED? Speak now. Come on. Be brave. Take a position that is yours and own it. Come on. Everybody thinks it's going to work. Does anybody, let's make the answer shorter. Does anybody think it's not going to work? Does anybody think we're going to return? Easy Otter. Okay. Easy Otter says it's not going to boot. So far, everybody else I've seen thinks it's going to. So let me know if you think it's not going to. It looks like the default in the chat room. Most people think it's going to work fine now. But David says it won't work next week. I'm afraid David's probably right. I laugh because it's true. We'd have to bring it out next week and try it again. This is mine. I mean, I will have it next week. So if you remind me, maybe I'll pull it back out and we'll try it. J-Toy is afraid to take a stand. He just says maybe. Separating the men from the boys here right now. What is my main private PC? It's a Galaxy Book 3 Samsung that I showed here a few months ago when I bought it new. That is my main. I probably spend more time on that Galaxy Book 3 than on any other machine. Okay, here we go. The jury is in. 12 angry men. 11 regular men and 1 angry man. What's his name? Richard Taylor? I was thinking of the play, the Broadway play with Richard Thomas from Little House on the Prairie. Never mind. It was I've never gone to very many plays in my life, and I've gone to so few I can tell you what they were. And the reason it happened, boy, there's an old man story. Very wealthy client owned season tickets to the Arts Center, the Arts Museum. And so whenever there were plays in town, Broadway plays, he had tickets as a donor. And there were a few he wasn't interested in or wasn't going to be in town in. He says, would you like these tickets? And I said, okay. And I don't normally enjoy plays, but thought I'd open my mind to culture and saw 12 Angry Men. Now I'm seeing a blinking light in the reflection. I see it. Ray Gallagher says, Richard Thomas was the Waltons. Wasn't the Waltons in Little House on the Prairie the same thing? No? Am I remembering it wrong? Okay, all I did is plug it in. I haven't hit the power button yet, so does hitting the power button change anything? No. Hold the power button in. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It off. It's like it's off. Now tap and release. Will it turn on? Now it's not doing anything. Tap, release. Hard drive light is blinking. Why is the hard drive light blinking? I hear it booting. It booted. Okay. Right back to where we started from. Shut it down. Little House on the Prairie was Michael Landon, Little Joe. But that's like the same show to me, man. I was a little kid. Little House on the Prairie, that's not the same show? And the Waltons? I thought the Waltons were the family that lived on the Little House on the Prairie. No? Wow. Well, it shows you how much I watched that show. Good night, John Boy. All right, let's turn it back on and see what it does. I learned something new today. Completely useless information I didn't have to have. Man, I thought those were the same show. That's hilarious. You see? This is why you stay in your lane. This is what I know. What I don't know, I should keep my mouth shut. That's okay. That's how we learn. That's the Waltons. The Waltons live in the mountains, not on a prairie. Man, I don't know. That was the same show. How is that not the same show? How old was I? 6? Sure as heck looked like the same show to me. So it boots up. Let's shut it off one more time. Richard says one took place in the 1800s, the others were the 1930s. Man, that's all the 1800s from my perspective. I kid. It was before I was born, so it was long before me either way. All right, all the lights are out. Let's turn it on again. What's interesting is that I'm not getting a white or an amber light here. You would think that would glow white to indicate power's on. Oh, it is. It's just very dim. I see. I can be that way sometimes, most of the time, all the time. Now, what appears to happen only seems to be after it's been unplugged. Isn't that interesting? So just one more experiment here to find consistency. Now, if this were a customer's machine and they wanted it back right away for a business, and I'm able to establish there does seem to be a consistency when it's plugged in versus when it's not, I could deliver this back to the customer under the condition you don't unplug this. So if you have to move it to another desk where you have to unplug it for any reason, you might be calling me. I'd hate to deliver a computer back like that. But let's go ahead and let's unplug it again. And again, we're going to take all the plugs out like so. Let's let it sit for just another few minutes. We're going to try this one last time and see if we get any consistency in behavior, which is after it's been unplugged. Let's go full screen. It seems to have some trouble initializing. I don't know why. But once it gets past that, when we hold the button down for 10 seconds and then we tap it after that, it seems fine from that point forward until it's unplugged again. That's weird. Could it be this power brick? Without another power brick, we don't know for sure. Yes, it's possible. Ray says, Carey, you're about the same age as me. I surrender. What? So how many of you were wrong in the chat room, out of curiosity? How many of you thought this was going to turn right on and we solved the problem? Anybody who wasn't wrong didn't learn anything. That's all I'm trying to say. No shame in being wrong. It's how we get smarter. If we're not learning, let me rephrase, if we're not making mistakes, we're not learning or we're not doing anything. I'd rather do something and fail than not do anything at all. And so when I see these criticisms, and I hope when you see criticisms online from people that make fun of somebody who perhaps made a mistake, at least they did something other than criticize somebody else. And for that, they're the winner. That makes them more admirable, more admirable than the critic. So I don't want to just be the critic. I want to help. And I would hope others would think like me, but they don't. But it's good. It's good to learn something and to grow. And the best way you do that is by making mistakes. And the only way you can do that is to actually try something. And failure is okay. We'll figure it out. You stick to it. That's the key. You don't throw up your hands and walk away and admit defeat. You're capable. You can do it. So what? You went up to bat You missed the ball. You still get 2 more swings, man. No, I don't want to bat. Okay, well, then you do nothing. All right, let's plug this in. Okay, I've got all the other cables plugged in first, just in case there's any question or doubt as to the order of the cables. We save the power for last. Let's plug that in, and I'm not touching anything. See, it should not even be turning on right now. That right there is a problem. And that's why it could be related to the power adapter. I bought this off eBay. Maybe the seller sent me a bad adapter or sent me the wrong adapter. I don't know. I've never owned one of these before. It certainly seems like it's the right adapter. That doesn't necessarily mean there's not something wrong with it. Yes, the adapter works fine on the unit below, but maybe that's because this adapter was designed to work with the unit below. That is possible. Now, if I go back to the input, did we boot or what's going on over there? No signal. Okay. And we're back to a blinking orange or amber light right there. Right back to square one again. So if I spend the money to order another power adapter and it makes no difference, I've just wasted that money. When you do warranty work, it's always good to have spares so there's no delay in getting the part you need. But at the same time, if you've only sold one to one customer, does it make sense to buy another one just to have it in case you need parts? So when corporations order these, they order these by the hundreds. Swap it out. Get the employee back up and running that's using the computer as quickly as possible. And the IT department can take the bad unit back and take as much time as they want, theoretically, to getting it resolved or sent back to the manufacturer for warranty. You have spare unit, lots of spare units. That is a downside if you buy one of these, by the way, that the components are all proprietary, just like a laptop. The good thing is they're super reliable, and this kind of problem is not very common. But if it does happen, you might have to order some parts on eBay, and you might be wrong and be ordering those parts for no reason at all. It could be an expensive and timely fix. But usually these are pretty bulletproof. So that's going to sit there and blink at us until we hold the power button in. So let's do that now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. See, that's the state the unit should be in when it loses power. And then we apply power, it shouldn't change. It should still stay off. When we reapply power, it should stay off. So before I tap and release, let's move myself again into the, see if it's booting. Because I couldn't tell before, because the white light is so dim. I'll go towards the light. That's the light. I thought it'd be brighter. Here we go. Anything? I feel a fan. Give it a minute. Fan is off. One more time. Press release. I don't feel any air coming out of this anymore. Press release. I want to try the display port. Press release. Going to pull power. Let it redetect the HDMI or DisplayPort. The video output is detected on power up. So it may be that because I didn't fully unplug it, that it didn't acknowledge that switch. So now we're in DisplayPort. Now I'll plug it in. Power. There it goes. It's getting more interesting. Paul says, I think I like the Lenovo's better and the HPs. But this is not normal. I mean, it's not like this is a common issue with Dells, as far as I know. It's just luck of the draw here. But I already didn't like the Dell, so it's got nothing to lose by misbehaving. Even if it did what it was supposed to do, I still wouldn't like it. This just doesn't make me like it anymore. It makes me vindicated is what it does. But regardless of that, even when it does work, it's not working well. Not compared to the Lenovo and the HP. Okay. So we're booted. We're going to do one more experiment, and then we're going to wrap it up for today because we're just about at the 2-hour mark. So the final experiment here is we shut it back down, and then we're going to unplug everything again. Only this time, we're going to leave it as DisplayPort. We're not going to use HDMI on the computer. We're using our DisplayPort adapter. So we'll see if that makes any difference at all. Fully unplugged, full screen on camera 1. And again, we'll just bide our time, not as long as before, just a couple minutes. If you have any tech questions, I'll do my best to provide an answer for you. You guys are all over the map on this. I love it. You guys can't even agree on what the solution is. Imagine someone second guessing you when you're the one trying to teach. You know what I mean? I'm just saying, when you think about it, put yourself in my shoes for a minute. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm not saying I'm right. I'm saying y'all can't agree. Arnold wants to know on the managed switch tutorial, what's going on with that? That's been postponed because the move of the studio, of course, is taking priority, but also because there are a number of other products that were sent to us for review that we're obligated to get to in order to maintain those relationships. If those companies send us stuff and we never review it, they probably won't send us anything else ever again. They're not paying us to do it. So there's kind of an agreement. If we send this to you, will you review it? Can I review it on my terms, on my schedule? Yes. And then after a certain amount of time, if it never gets done, they probably won't send me anything because it costs them money. Why would they do that? So those items will get prioritized. And when we're caught up there, then we can talk about the managed switch and revisit that because it's still here. It's still a project in the wings waiting to be done. But obligations obviously are prioritized. But that's the status, and that's why. Is there a way to remove Cortana from an HP notebook? I don't think Cortana and HP are related. I think Cortana was retired by Microsoft and no longer exists. Windows is Windows, whether it's installed, Windows 10 or Windows 11 Home or Pro, are the same regardless. If you've built your own computer, you have a mini PC, you bought a pre-built computer, or you have a laptop or notebook. Okay, so we're gonna not plug in power yet. We'll save that for last, right? So we'll plug the display port in first. That at least clicks when it goes in. The HDMI cable doesn't. So plugging it in all the way every time. Is there something wrong with the internals of the HDMI or the electronics of the HDMI? Maybe. Again, I bought this machine off lease. And if it had exhibited this, if I had enough time with this machine, the seller was reputable, I could have sent it back if I was aware. But we're long. That ship has well sailed. So with that plugged in, let's go back over here and plug in power. I don't know how long it took before for the amber LED to start blinking. I'm not seeing it. Let's see what happens. Power button. I feel the fan. I expected something to happen by now. See the light. Step around so I can see the light. It is blinking amber. Maybe you guys can see that better than me. So whether it's HDMI or DisplayPort is not making any difference. But this information is good to know because this helps us whittle down what's left. Right? We know where to focus our attention. And I think maybe the power adapter will be the first place to start. They're cheap enough. It's not a major investment to buy a new one. This looks like it's going to boot now anyway. So holding the power button in for 10 seconds and then releasing the power button does seem to work with consistency. And it only seems to happen when we lose power from the device, which is normally, to me, suggests a bad battery, but we've replaced the battery. So I'm stumped. I think that without another power adapter, all I can do is imagine. Like, what if I replace the power adapter and I still have the same problem? What's next? Changing the RAM, checking BIOS jumper locations on the board to make sure there's not a jumper in the wrong place that somebody might have moved. Remember, I bought this off lease from a refurbisher, a reputable refurbisher, but that doesn't mean mistakes and oversights don't happen. I don't know. You just have to start removing components and testing and removing and testing until you find the one last thing remaining. It'd be a motherboard. Intermittent problems are the most difficult, frustrating, time-consuming problems you'll ever need to resolve for anything in your life, not just a computer, your health, your car, anything. When you tell the person the person you've hired to fix it, or you try and fix it yourself, how can you ever really be sure you fixed it if sometimes it worked? How do you know you're still not in the sometimes part? Even that, to know it's fixed, takes time to establish that, okay, it's been a long time since it's done this. Only then can you conclude it's fixed. And even then, you're still assuming. Because until there's evidence where it misbehaves again, You could be wrong if it exhibits it, but then you could be right if it doesn't. Without that certainty, that's why a problem that is consistent is so much easier to fix. It's faster, and you know you fixed it because the problem was there, and now the problem is gone. But when the problem keeps coming back, at least we've established it's happening only when it's unplugged. And that is a massive piece of information we did not have, that we know for a fact, we've tested it numerous times, that is consistent. So finding the problems to an inconsistent problem means you have to find some consistencies within it, or you're just rolling dice and guessing. You're just throwing parts at it until eventually you get it working. And when someone says, what did you do to fix it? You go, I don't know. One of the things I replaced fixed it. Which one? I don't know. No, that's fine if you're not a tech. You're just fixing your own machine at home. That doesn't work for me. I need to know what's going on, and I need to be confident when I return it to the customer that I'm not going to have my phone ringing tomorrow and I got to go back over there and I can't get anybody else's work done. I can't help the next customer who needs my help because I'm getting pulled backwards from the customer I thought I already helped and thought I could move on, but I cannot move on until they are done. I'm going to sneeze. Hold on. Whew, there's a couple of sneezes. Have allergies. Okay. Ben Laird says, even if it boots, could you rely on it for daily use or hit the same or another problem? Let me ask you a question. If you buy a computer, if you buy something from somebody that you're buying under the condition that it works, could you use it for daily use if it doesn't work? Would you, the one paying the money for it, would you find that to be acceptable or would you not? And that answers your question, because for some people they'll say fine, and for other people they'll say absolutely not. So what you can do is what you can do and why you would do it. And what I would do is make sure my customers are happy and got their expectations met, and anything less than that means my customer did not get 100% service. They did not get 100% of their expectations met, and I have failed my customer and I need to correct it as soon as possible, or I could lose all future business from that customer. So whatever this cost or whatever I made is nothing compared to what I could lose in future revenue and references and referrals from that same customer. So what would you do and what I would do? Very different answers potentially, but neither one of us is wrong. Just a different set of values and a different set of circumstances, and to each his own. Let me make sure I haven't missed any other super chats. I apologize. I've been so focused on this, I've not been looking. Looks like there was a couple there from Peter VZ in Amsterdam. Thank you, Peter, for all of your support. Another thanks to Troll McTrollington, Jose Lopez, and Ben Laird for their super chats. And Darloff, welcome into membership. Thank you for joining the channel. And I'll check the phone one time, and we're going to wrap it up for today. Daryl Loftus sends a $50 Amazon gift card. He says, it's been a minute. Thanks for all you do. I just subscribed. Daryl, thank you so much. We use those Amazon gift cards to buy stuff, whether it's routers or computers or computer parts, to use as examples here, to review, to build, to repair. So thank you for that. We love not being beholden to a corporation. You guys make that possible. And these videos wouldn't be made if there was nobody watching them. So you make that possible. You make it worthwhile to make them. So thank you for that. Richard Palmetier contributes $2 in Super Chat. He says, thanks, Carey, for the information. Well, this video did not come out. This is not the video I intended to make, is what I'm trying to say. But that doesn't mean it wasn't a good video. It may actually be better than what I was trying to do. So either way, these are live, these are real, and these things happen. And this is a part of my everyday life. I'm just turning the camera on, right? I get problems like these bizarre things all the time. And it's been that way for me since 1991. I love to share it with you. And I love that it's real and not scripted and rehearsed and edited. That's just so phony and unrealistic. There's enough of phony and unrealistic and virtual that exists in our world today. Cling on to the real is all I'm saying, because it's going away. Or it's going to be very difficult, more difficult to tell what's real from what's not real as we progress forward with AI. Not that that's automatically a bad thing, but I am concerned of the loss of balance and the fact that nobody will care enough anyway. So for me, it's important. Keep it real, keep it authentic, be transparent. I think that'll wrap it up for me for today. William says, Carey, I'm a longtime viewer of yours, often on watching your videos. Finally, after many years of enjoying your content, I finally started school as a PC repair tech. Nice. Very good. Well, I hope you found a passion, something that you enjoy doing, and that I've given you a good idea of what's involved in the job versus, you know, playing with a computer at home. I like both. So, well, they do have some frustrations and challenges. Otherwise, it'd be boring and I wouldn't want to do it. And if it was nothing but frustration and challenges without reward, I wouldn't want to do it either. So for me, it strikes a very good balance. That's what keeps me in and keeps me interested. Thank you all so much for hanging out and joining me on this unplanned, unscheduled journey. And thank you to Mara, of course, for keeping everything straight there on the background in the administrative side of things, and the thumbnail she made for today's video and all of the video notes. That's all her. And of course, our friends at Acronis offering you that 30% off. RoboForm also offers 30% off if you're a new RoboForm customer. That's a password manager. You can do a YouTube search here on my channel if you've never heard of it and you don't know what I'm talking about. Got whole dedicated videos on it. I couldn't live without it. Well, I could, but I wouldn't be happy. And then, of course, VIP CDK deals with our discounted legal Windows and Office keys that are a fraction of Microsoft's pricing and are all guaranteed. Everything is guaranteed. Everything has trials. Try it before you buy it. Don't take my word for anything. Don't take anybody's word for anything. Decide for yourself. And if you run into any issues or problems, feel free to reach out to me about. If you think anything I'm endorsing isn't on the up and up, share your experience with me. We'll make it right. So rarely ever happens. Sometimes mistakes are made. Sometimes it's not on the sponsor's fault. But either way, we'll work with you to make it right. That's more important to me than anything else. So thank you for watching. I'll see you all very, very soon. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday. And until next time, bye for now. I don't have an outro. Oh, this one's fun. We'll use this one.